Finally, a company that actually listened, that took a decent bike and actually made it better. The new Engwe L20 2.0 has a lot of upgraded features from the previous model, and I think this is going to be something that will appeal to a lot of riders due to the price, the weight, and how much this thing can collapse and fold down. We're going to go over all the pros, the cons, we'll go over the specs and the features of this bike, so stick around for a couple minutes and we'll see if this one is right for you. Engwe's new bike will come in at a price of $799 at the time of this video and weigh just over 68 pounds. It has a range of 28 miles on electric only, and if you do use pedal assist number 1, approximately 80 miles. Now during my test ride, I went to several locations, also making sure that the speedometer was correct, and I did take this out into the dirt and also in some of the city trails and more, just to get a feel for the bike. I did find that this actually performed really well due to it being light. I even took it on a couple single tracks just to see, and with it being light and nimble, it actually did pretty well. When it comes to the tires, they handle most terrains really well, except for this loose gravel, and since I was at the upper end of the air pressure, you did notice it being a little bit loose. Now when it came to this water crossing, I was actually surprised I didn't have to put my foot down, as the amount of torque and with the bike being light made it across pretty easy. Going up several hills, the bike was able to maintain 13 to about 15 miles an hour with minimal pedaling involved, which this is your average hills and me being about 200 pounds with gear. The bike also hit its max speed of 28 miles per hour no problem several times, and the upgrades and features they added to this bike was definitely a move in the right direction, so we'll go ahead and take a look at everything that's new. We are going to start with a couple of the obvious things first, like one is the tires. Finally, a bike that is not a 4-inch wide fat tire bike. This one is only 3 inches wide. So there's a lot of benefits with a tire that is smaller. One, you will get quicker acceleration. Whoa. 2, you will also get better braking due to less rotational mass. And not to mention, your weight is going to be down. So there's a lot more benefits when you go to a 3.0 wide tire that's only 20 inches, because you get better acceleration, better braking, longer distance, and also less weight. Another great upgrade was taking the battery from 48 volt and making it a 52 volt, but still maintaining 13 amp hours. You actually get more watt hours out of this battery because the voltage is higher, and not to mention you'll get more power to the motors, so this will help create more torque and also provide better range. This also went from 50 newton meters of torque up to 75. So with a 750 watt motor, 75 newton meters of torque on a lighter bike with smaller wheels that doesn't have as much weight, you're going to get, again, better acceleration, better power, and this will help also increase your range farther. Now this may not seem like that big of a deal, but they also increase the rotor size. I have seen small rotors on large heavy bikes where this ends up providing poor to minimal performance when it comes to braking. So even if they have hydraulic brakes, they have a really small rotor. They actually increase the rotor size on this bike up to 180 millimeters. Some of their other bikes are only 160 millimeters, so a bigger rotor allows for better stopping power. Okay, now here's another benefit that I found with this bike over the older model, is that this one is actually foldable. We'll go over that in a minute, but this allows you to pack this up into maybe a smaller SUV, or if you wanted to store this, it allows you more options to take up basically less room. And again, with it being lighter, it's a lot easier to handle. Now something else they did change on this bike was the frame. They made this a lot lower than the previous model, and even some other brands that are very well known, they actually made this to where it allows you to step through much easier. So now if you're a little bit older, or maybe you're shorter, or you have some mobility problems, this is going to allow you to get on the bike a lot easier because the frame being a lot lower. So this is also kind of another good upgrade, and this kind of allows a lot more people to be able to take advantage of a bike like this. Now this bike also has a lot of adjustability, so if you are shorter, they said that this bike can basically manage people that are 5 feet up to 6 feet tall. So the seat does fully adjust up and down. You can also slide the seat forward and backward if you need to, and even tilt it if needed. You also have control of extending the bars up and down a little bit on the steering neck. So if you are a taller rider, you can extend the bars a little bit higher to basically adjust a lot of different people's heights, or at least in the average area. If you're a really tall person, well, this bike probably isn't going to be for you. Now this bike will come with kind of a standard twist throttle. This is pretty common on a lot of bikes, so it's really easy to use. And if you twist the throttle, you'll only go up to 20 miles per hour on the bike. And if you want to go the full speed of the bike, which is 28 miles an hour, then you actually start to pedal the bike. And so what will happen is that the bike will actually go from 20, and you don't even have to pedal fast, you just start pedaling a little bit, and this will take you all the way up to the top speed of the bike of about 28 miles per hour, depending on the terrain that you're on, the weight of the rider. That can have a little bit of effect on your battery life and more. It does have a nice LCD color display that'll run you through all the options, along with power assist modes that'll take you all the way from 1 all the way up to 5, which will help you either have very little assist on your pedals, or basically that'll pretty much do all of the work for you. You also have a 5-button control center, which this will run you through turning the bike on and off. It'll also allow you to go through your pedal assist modes and go through some of the main settings that are inside of the display and control the bike settings if you wanted to make some changes. You will also have a bell to indicate to people that you are coming. And this bike does come with standard cable brakes, but there is something to be said about that, because cable brakes don't really require much maintenance. If you happen to get a leak with a hydraulic brake, well, then you got to find it, and sometimes that can be a little bit annoying. So even though hydraulic brakes are nice and they perform really well, sometimes simple is better. The bike is also equipped with a Shimano 7-speed tourney setup. Now this is a pretty entry-level setup that is pretty standard on a lot of e-bikes. You'll see these on pretty much everywhere. They're nothing special, at least in my opinion, but they do work great. They don't really kind of fail much. It's pretty simplistic. I prefer the little kind of a underneath trigger and thumb style better, but that's just my personal preference. Now this bike does come with 2 bike racks as well. Each one of these racks can handle a little bit of weight, which the back one can handle 25 kilograms or about 55 pounds. So if you were to run to the store and you wanted to put some items on there, this will allow for basically some gear up front and maybe a little gear on the back as well. As the front though doesn't hold as much, only 8 kilograms, so you're going to be less than about 16 pounds. Now this bike is equipped with a headlight. It is also equipped with a brake light as well that'll activate when you do hit the brakes. But one thing I did notice is that the headlight is permanently mounted straight. So if you happen to be turning the bike, it's not actually going to be moving with you. So this was one thing that I found a little bit kind of odd, but you can actually switch it right to the top of the fender, as there is a mount there like many other bikes. So you can actually put this right on top of the fender. That way when you do turn the wheel, the headlight will kind of follow where you're going, if this is something that maybe you want to do later. Now this bike does come with a removable battery. You will have to lift up the seat, which this is just lever activated. Now you will have to come down to the battery, turn the key and push in. This will unlock it, allowing you to then pull up on the battery, which this will allow you to charge the battery outside of the bike if you wanted to. Now something else that's new in this bike too is they did upgrade suspension, and unlike the other bike, this one now has a suspension seat to provide a little bit more of a smoother ride. I found this actually did help going over rougher terrains, as it did provide some relief as opposed to just having a straight rigid mount bike that doesn't have any suspension. And since it does have a nice cushioned seat with little dampers underneath, it actually provides a pretty nice ride. Okay, when it comes to folding the bike, now I've done this a couple times because like anything, it takes a little practice to see what works better. But this is what I found that kind of works, is that when you unfold it, go ahead and sweep up the kickstand. You want to fold the pedals. And now leave this one folded first, but go down to the frame and push this. Unlock that one. Now I am on the other side of the bike, so what you want to do is actually come on this side. Go ahead and pull this towards you. Give it a little push. And now it's just going to sit on the bottom of the frame. Then you can keep pulling over here and set that down. And now if you want, go ahead and undo the bars, fold that down. And now this thing folds up pretty tight. As you can see, the footprint on this is really small, which if you're looking for something that doesn't take up a lot of space, this is actually kind of nice. And because this doesn't weigh a lot, you can actually pick this up and, again, maybe put it in a small SUV if you want, but I'll show you how to unfold it and put it back together. Okay, so I would start with the handlebars, bring these up, go ahead and snap it into position. And now again, grab this frame and just kind of push it away from you a little bit. You can take the bars, roll them away, and then you're gonna pull up on the bike, and then go ahead and push with your leg. And then it pretty much snaps together. You can even use your foot, snap that in place, and the bike is pretty much put together. Now you just have your pedals, and it's pretty much ready to ride, so not very hard. Okay, we've gone over features and specs and basically all the new and the pros of the bike. Well, now it's time to go over a couple of the cons. There's not really much, but there are a couple things that you want to know about. Now, one thing that I personally don't like is the 7-speed. I really wish a lot more bikes would go up to the 9-speed. I have found this to be a lot more beneficial. That way, when you get up to your higher speeds, you're not free pedaling. By the time you hit about 21 or 22, basically the pedaling stops and you're just freewheeling at that point. So if you had a couple more gears, this would allow you to pedal more and help the bike when you're kind of at those flat roads where you're kind of really cruising along. This will help you also help, you know, maintain more battery life longer. So I think a 9-speed is something I would like to see on more of the e-bikes that are coming out. The 7-speed is just not quite enough, at least in my opinion. Okay, one thing I don't like actually is leaving a key in your battery. This is something I wish e-bike companies would stop, is basically a way to where you could have this in a position to where it's on and then you can remove the key. I don't like leaving it in there. That way, if you fall and go down and you damage it, you could possibly break it off inside there or even damage the battery unit itself. So that's just something I kind of wish they would change. That's my personal preference anyway. So what do you guys think of the new 2.0 L20 bike? Overall, I think for older people who have mobility problems, this is a good option for you. If you're shorter, this is probably another good option for you because of the low frame. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. There are discounts available as well. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.